The story of Jeremiah. Jeremiah was one of the major prophets in the Old Testament. His story is told primarily in the book of Jeremiah, with additional details in Lamentations, traditionally attributed to him, and historical accounts in 2 Kings and 2 Chronicles. God's call. Jeremiah lived around 627 to 586 BC, during the final years of the kingdom of Judah. God called him to be a prophet while he was still young. When God called him, Jeremiah protested. "Ah, sovereign Lord, I do not know how to speak. I am too young." God replied, "Do not say, I am too young. You must go to everyone I send you to. Do not be afraid, for I am with you." This is from Jeremiah chapter 1, verses 6 to 8. God appointed Jeremiah to warn Judah that, because of their idolatry, injustice, and rejection of God's covenant, judgment was coming. A difficult mission. Jeremiah preached for about 40 years, but most people refused to listen. He warned that the Babylonian Empire would conquer Jerusalem if the nation did not repent. Because of his message, religious leaders rejected him, government officials opposed him, he was beaten and imprisoned, and he was thrown into a muddy cistern and left to die until he was rescued. Jeremiah became known as the weeping prophet because he deeply grieved over the people's sin and the suffering that would come. The fall of Jerusalem. Jeremiah's warnings eventually came true. In 586 BC, the Babylonians under King Nebuchadnezzar captured Jerusalem, destroyed Solomon's temple, and carried many people into exile in Babylon. Although Jeremiah had predicted this disaster, he remained with the people who were left behind. A message of hope. Even in the midst of judgment, Jeremiah delivered God's promise of restoration. One of the Bible's most famous promises comes from Jeremiah 29, verse 11. "For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you hope and a future." Originally, this promise was given to the Jewish exiles in Babylon, assuring them that after years of exile God would restore them. Jeremiah also foretold a new covenant, in which God's law would be written on people's hearts, as described in Jeremiah chapter 31, verses 31 to 34. Christians understand this as pointing forward to Jesus Christ. Jeremiah's final years. After Jerusalem fell, Jeremiah chose to remain in Judah. Later, despite his warnings not to go, a group of survivors forced him to accompany them to Egypt. The Bible does not clearly record how Jeremiah died, though tradition says he spent his final years there. Key lessons from Jeremiah. God can use ordinary people, regardless of age. Faithfulness matters, even when people reject the message. Sin has consequences, but God remains merciful. God's judgment is never his final word. He also offers hope, forgiveness, and restoration. Trusting God requires perseverance, even in difficult circumstances. Jeremiah's life is remembered as an example of courage, obedience, and unwavering faith in the face of intense opposition.